Man, that was awesome.
So Silent Hill 4 came out in 2004, and this was the last Silent Hill game made by Team Silent. This is the team responsible for all of the 3 Silent Hill games I've reviewed thus far, and after this game, the franchise basically died. So you would think with this being their last game, Team Silent would go all out, guns a-blazing in their last installment. Okay, full warning, there will be a few spoilers because I don't think any of you will play this game. So in this game, you play as Henry Townshend, as Henry has a nightmare about his apartment being closed off from the world. He eventually wakes up with a sigh of relief, until realizing that his actual apartment is closed off to the world as well. He ends up finding a hole in his bathroom, and with this being the only way out, he proceeds to go inside. He ends up in this new area and meets this woman named Cynthia, but eventually he loses track of her, and the next time he meets her, she is dead, and whoever killed her carved these interesting numbers on her chest. This becomes a running theme for Henry in this game. Henry goes through a hole, ends up in a new area, meets a new companion, and then they get killed. Each of them with their own number carved into their body, and eventually Henry figures out that this is the work of a serial killer. So now Henry's goal is to stop this nightmare serial killer. Okay, so just like Silent Hill 3, I'm going to get the negatives out of the way first. The only problem is that the negatives are the majority of the game. It is crazy to me how this was Team Silent's last game, because I would have believed that Silent Hill 3 was their last game. I only say that because this was the first Silent Hill game where the atmosphere was ass. There are still some creepy and eerie moments sprinkled about, but compared to the last 3 games, what happened? How does the 4th game look worse than the 3rd game? And this is just after I praised Silent Hill 3 for being my favorite looking Silent Hill game. The areas are so bland in this game. The only areas I liked in the game were Henry's room because it changes more and more throughout the game, and the water prison because it has some of the darkest lore in the Silent Hill franchise. But what makes it worse is that after giving us majorly bland ass areas, in the climax of the game, they make us have to backtrack through all of the previous levels. I didn't think this game felt rushed in the beginning, even if it did come out just a year after Silent Hill 3. But once I got to the climax and we had to start repeating levels, I was dumbfounded for how lazy this was, especially for a Silent Hill game. Even when it comes to the monsters in this game, they go into one of 2 categories. They are either some of the most disturbing enemies in a Silent Hill game, or they are some of the most comically goofiest enemies in a horror game. Spoiler alert, the majority is in the latter. I'm not trying to be a dick because I mean this honestly. How the hell am I supposed to be scared when you give the monster sound effects like this? And the gameplay honestly makes my issues with the monsters even worse. I told you in my Silent Hill 3 review that the gameplay was only going to get worse from here, And I was not lying. I was honestly going to trash the controls, but after replaying this game, it's actually not that bad. I even like the new heavy attack that you charge for massive damage. So now I realized that the problem wasn't the controls. The problem was the monsters you fight with these controls. In the other Silent Hill games, the monsters were a threat, but if you know where to go, you can always find ways around them. They only become a problem if you hesitate, but if you know what you're doing, you can easily take them out or just run past them. Where in Silent Hill 4, the monsters get in your way so much that you're basically given no choice but to deal with them. And fuck these ghost enemies. These monsters are the most annoying enemies in Silent Hill, and you can't even kill them. The only method I know that works is the Sword of Obedience, but there are only 5 of them in the goddamn game. Also, just to get this out of the way, Henry is such a bland main character. I'm not going to act like Harry was a top tier protagonist in Silent Hill 1 either. But this is Silent Hill 4. We already had James and Heather before this game, and Henry feels like a massive downgrade. His only redeeming quality is his eventual relationship with Eileen, who, to her credit, ends up becoming a really good character herself, being the only companion character you can actually save. I usually hate long-form escort missions, unless it's BioShock Infinite, but she's actually one of the few highlights of the game. Being able to give her weapons and also giving her this interesting mechanic where the more injured Eileen gets throughout the game, the more possessed she becomes. And if she gets too possessed, she will die by the end of the game. It even changes certain cutscenes depending on how possessed she is.
We're the only ones. The only ones that can stop him. I'm so scared! It's dark! I'm so scared!
But the problem I have with Henry as a character is that we don't even get to know much about him or his inner psyche within Silent Hill. But there is a reason for that. I said a lot of negative things about Silent Hill 4, and you probably think I hate this game, and usually that would be the case. But what if I were to tell you that there was this one thing that this game does that is better than all of the 3 previous games? What I find the most fascinating about Silent Hill 4 compared to the other games is that this version of Silent Hill is not built off of the main character's inner psyche. We honestly don't get to know much about Henry except for the fact that he likes taking pictures, and I was going to take points off for this, but as I was exploring the areas and reading the notes, it finally dawned on me when I met that little boy and found out who he was. Silent Hill 4 is not built off of the protagonist. Silent Hill 4 is built off of the antagonist. And with that, I would like to tell you the story of the greatest antagonist in Silent Hill history, Walter Sullivan. And to tell you the story of Walter Sullivan, let me take you back to Silent Hill 2. In Silent Hill 2, you find a news article about how Walter Sullivan murdered a group of people and eventually takes his own life in prison. But how can Walter be the main antagonist of Silent Hill 4 if he's confirmed dead in Silent Hill 2? Now, some of you might think that maybe Silent Hill 4 is a prequel, which would be a good theory until it's confirmed that he's dead in Silent Hill 4 as well.
It's just like that case from 10 years ago. Yeah, that Walter Sullivan case. But Sullivan's dead. They even got the body. Must be some crazy copycat.
So I'm going to explain this as simple as I can. When Henry goes into the hole, he's not actually leaving his room. And this is confirmed because whenever Henry transports back into his room, he always wakes up inside his bed. And this is also confirmed with the people Henry meets in Silent Hill as well. One of the biggest examples is when we see Eileen in the next room getting ready for a party and ends up taking a nap. And the next thing you know, both her and Henry are now in Silent Hill. The Silent Hill in Silent Hill 4 is a nightmarish dreamland. And now that you all understand that, this makes my comparison a lot easier. Walter Sullivan is basically Freddy Krueger, killing people in their dreams, which leads to them dying in the real world. But unlike Freddy Krueger, Walter, for as evil as he is honestly such a tragic character. Everything I love about this game comes from this character. Silent Hill 4 is built from Walter's inner psyche, and you get a first glimpse of that when you first meet him as a child. You can see that Walter was a good kid until life dealt him the worst cards imaginable. Walter was born in room 302 at the South Ashfield Heights apartments and was abandoned by his own parents. He was left to rot until the Wish House Orphanage took him in and basically made him worse, because a little cult known as the Order, the same cult from Silent Hill 1 and 3, used that orphanage to indoctrinate young children into the cult. And during that entire period of his life, Walter was lied to and manipulated. They made this poor child believe that his mom was room 302. Let me say that a lot slower. They made him believe that his mother was the room he was born in, which is now Henry's room, by the way. And this is what leads Walter into fulfilling the ritual of the 21 sacraments. He was brainwashed by the cult to believe that if he were to fulfill the ritual and kill 21 people for the sacrament, he could see his mother again, when in reality, they just manipulated Walter into accomplishing the Order's plans to achieve paradise. I honestly believe with everything they did with Walter's character in this game, if Team Silent had it their way and wasn't restricted by Konami, I truly think that Walter Sullivan was originally the protagonist of this game. But Konami probably thought that he was too evil to be a protagonist, so they made him the antagonist instead. Even the theme of Silent Hill 4 is about Walter and his sad relationship with his mother. This is not Henry's theme.
Here's a lullaby to close your eyes goodbye. It was always you that I despised. I don't feel enough for you to cry. Oh well. Here's a lullaby to close your eyes goodbye.
And since we're already talking about the music, the soundtrack of Silent Hill 4 is very underrated. It's not on the level of Silent Hill 2 or 3 for me, but I feel like a lot of people forget just how good some of the songs are in this game. So with all that said, Silent Hill 4 gave us mid-atmosphere, goofy-ass monsters, but the story of Walter Sullivan, it at least made me happy I played this game. So with all that said, my final verdict for Silent Hill 4 is the bronze seal of approval.